my name is Mike Kwatinetz. I'm a managing director at Azure Capital, which is a venture capital firm. We invest in companies that are relatively early stage. Some of the companies that have been pretty successful that I've invested in is VMware, Bill Me Later, TripIt, and we have a number of companies that are in the portfolio now that we think will be in the same category. So we're pretty excited about, the kinds of companies that we're involved in. Since about 1990, I have over a 60% return per year on my investment on average. To be successful, one of the things you have to do, in my opinion, and other people have different opinions, is don't decide whether you would use the product. You're not the average customer. So let the facts determine things. So I like to look at companies and see how successful they are at an early stage, and are there early indicators of why they're going to be successful in the future. Second thing was, could somebody copy them and really replicate what they were doing easily? I'm a software guy, so application software is what I know best. But I've also covered PC hardware at one point. But I tend more to love software than hardware. But what's happening now is every industry is being affected by technology. So we have these companies that are a combination of a prior industry and technology. And I'm very interested in that transformation. So what makes a company that is renting clothes a technology company? Now, in the past, that company would have a storefront and they would have, tons of people, lots of inventory, and they would rent the clothes and then open more storefronts to grow. Now, it's all centralized on the web. Well, how good is their web technology? How good is their user interface? And they have tremendous data now. Well, do they analyze the data well? So there's so many aspects. How do they acquire a customer? So there's a whole technology in acquiring customers. So here you have a company that is a clothing rental company, but it's a technology company, and they had to build their own software for picking the goods in the warehouse and tracking the goods. So then they wanted to optimize how they ship the goods, and so they built software for optimizing that. So it'll pick a different shipping method depending on where it's going and when it's going there. We have that going on in every industry now. The transformation of old industries into new ones that are technology-based but offer a similar kind of product. So I'm fascinated by that, and I think that transformation is still early and it's going to continue to take place. Mm-hmm. When you think of investment, there's a few different things. One thing is, and this is really so important, is the quality of the team. A great team can even take a bad idea and make it work. And a bad team could take a great idea and fail. You also want, as part of the quality of the team, is the CEO willing to hire people who might be better than them? You want that type of CEO, because they understand it makes them better. Some CEOs are fearful of hiring anybody too good. Well, that's not going to go well. And then I mentioned market size is very important. Your competitive advantage is very important. So those are the kinds of characteristics we look for in making any investment. Well, I think that we're still very early in analyzing the data and utilizing it. I can give you a dozen examples, but a simple one is, I have a TiVo. They say to me, and it's a couple of years old, so they may have improved since then. They say, we're going to analyze what your pattern of watching is, and then if you have extra space on the drive, we'll record shows that you like. They never record a show I like. I watch 30 basketball games a year. If I forget to set it up to record the game, they will never record it. Instead, they record something that I never watched. So we're very rudimentary in the use of data right now. Even guys like Amazon are very poor at it. They send me the deals for Christmas. but I have to go through 200 deals and not find a single thing I like. Well, why are they sending me those 200? They have a lot of data. We buy like 50 things a year from Amazon. So can't they use the data better? And it's so rudimentary how the data is being used now. I also think there's an opportunity for a new search company. Google is broken now because they're trying to maximize revenue. So when you go on Google, instead of answering your search call, they have 10 ads that are paid ads who want that search as their ad. So they've paid for that particular search, but it's not solving what you asked for. So it's diverting you from what you asked for, and it's wasting a lot of your time. There's going to be somebody new who does it better, or Google will learn to do it better because they'll try to buy that company. We have a problem investing in a Chinese company running out of China just because we get heavily involved in helping our companies, and the logistics would be very difficult. On the other hand, we want our companies to get into China somehow. We want them to consider other locations for manufacturing, for development, etc. And several of our companies are involved in China in one way or another, for that, because the quality is very high now in terms of goods manufactured in China, and the cost is lower than here, and you're looking for that as an aspect. We have several companies that are going to be extremely interested in partnering with somebody in China. So there's a company I've invested in which is pretty wild. It's called Megabots, and they're building a giant fighting robot, and the first fight is going to be against a Japanese robot. After that, they're going to create a league of giant fighting robots, and we would love to have a Chinese team in that because it should be an international league, and the important countries in the world, there should be somebody who has a team from each of them. And so they'll sell franchises. We're hoping that we can find, the appropriate people in China to buy a franchise. And we want somebody of substance who can market it well there and, so on. Latote is talking to some people about doing a joint venture to have their particular product in China. They can't do it themselves. It would be foolish for them to even try because they don't understand all of the things about the country and so on. So it makes much more sense for them to do a joint venture and partner where they supply all the technology, all the know-how, and the partner, supplies the funding and the operation of the business there. So those would be two easy examples of, where we think. Now, in terms of manufacturing, Latote is doing some of its manufacturing in China. I can't remember who, but there's at least 2 companies doing some development in China. And, we don't want our companies to do everything in the U.S., which is a really expensive place to do things. So now we have another company, Subpack. I don't think they're in China yet. They're in Korea. And they're looking at China as another place where they have virtual reality for sound, and they have a theater in Korea where all the seats are outfitted with their technology. And I know they're interested in China as well, but I don't think they've made the inroads yet. So those are just a few examples, but really the reality is a number of our companies need to penetrate the Chinese market, number one. Some of them need to figure out manufacturing in China, number 2, and some of them should be doing development in China.